ladies and gentlemen. Imagine this, you used to light up his phone with text. Your voice once filled the silence between his thoughts, and now nothing. Silence. Not even a whisper. Do you think he doesn't notice? Because he does. More than you could ever know. At first he tells himself it's peace, freedom, even until that quiet becomes unbearable, a mirror reflecting everything he tried to ignore. And while you're gone, still and silent, his mind becomes loud, relentlessly loud. Regret creeps in wearing a familiar face, memory sharpens like broken glass, and suddenly every ordinary moment carries your name. Funny, isn't it, how your absence screams louder than your presence ever did. But here's the twist, this isn't about him. This is about what happens when you decide to reclaim your power. What shifts inside you when the noise stops and clarity walks in. And by the time we're done here, you won't just understand his thoughts, you'll understand your own strength. Silence, often mistaken for emptiness, becomes a powerful force when it stretches long enough to echo. In the absence of your voice, your laughter, your presence, something strange begins to happen inside him. At first, he might welcome the quiet. It feels like relief. No more tension, no more arguments, no more confusion, just stillness. But stillness is deceptive. It pretends to be peace, but eventually it demands confrontation. And when there's no external noise, the internal one grows louder. He begins to hear the things he's been trying not to hear. That small voice inside the one he's silenced with distraction, ego, pride, it starts to rise again. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting what he's refused to see. The truth doesn't yell. It waits patiently in the corners of quiet moments. And now, without the constant stream of your words, without the emotional signals you used to send, he's left with only one companion, himself. He tries to rationalize at first, tells himself that maybe you're just busy, that maybe you need space. He convinces himself you'll be back soon, like always. But with each passing day, with every hour of stillness, that confidence begins to shake. Because deep down, a part of him knows this isn't the same. This isn't temporary distance. This is different. This is you choosing not to explain. You choosing not to chase. You choosing to let the silence speak for you. And it speaks volumes. The longer he sits in the quiet, the more he starts to remember. Not just the good moments, though those come flooding in like a movie reel he can't pause. He remembers the hurt in your eyes, the times you held your tongue just to keep the peace, the words you left unsaid because you were trying to protect him or maybe trying to protect yourself. He begins to see the weight you were carrying while he stayed blind to it. It's as if silence unlocks a part of his brain that he had locked away for too long, a door full of emotions he had buried so deep he forgot they were ever real. Guilt starts to creep in, slow and suffocating. It doesn't knock politely, it seeps in through the cracks of his pride. He starts questioning things he once felt certain about. Was he fair? Did he ever listen? Why didn't he notice when you started fading? And most painfully, did he ever really understand what you needed? The discomfort of these thoughts grows with each passing moment. There's no distraction strong enough. Not his friends, not his work, not even the temporary highs he once used to numb the lows. Everything now feels empty because everything reminds him of what used to be. That song that once played when you both laughed in the car now makes him turn the radio off. The coffee shop you introduced him to becomes a place he avoids because your ghost lives there now, in every table, in every corner, in every cup. He may even try to dismiss these feelings, shrug them off. He tells himself he's just being dramatic, that he shouldn't care this much, that if you're gone, maybe it's for the best. But then night falls and silence wraps tighter around him like a second skin. That's when the thoughts hit harder. There are no defenses at midnight, no masks to wear. Just him, his guilt, and a gnawing emptiness he didn't expect. And the most terrifying part, he realizes he can't control any of it. He can't predict your next move. He can't demand an explanation. He can't fix things the way he used to by offering half apologies or promises he doesn't plan to keep. This time, you're not there to listen. You're not there to react. You're just gone. And that silence becomes the punishment he never saw coming. Every emotion he once avoided now has a front row seat in his mind. He feels regret, real regret, not the kind that's used to manipulate or play victim, but the kind that aches in the chest, the kind that keeps him up at night. He feels fear that maybe this silence means finality, that maybe he's lost something rare, something meaningful. And perhaps the most surprising emotion of all is sadness, not just for losing you, but for never really valuing you while you were still there. Day by day, the silence does its work. It breaks him down slowly, not with anger, not with chaos, but with pure emotional reflection. He doesn't know how to fight it because there's nothing to fight. You're not arguing. You're not accusing. You're not explaining. You've withdrawn completely, and in doing so, you've left him to face the truth that you were always the one holding space for the connection, that your energy was the glue, that he mistook your presence as a given when in fact it was a choice you no longer make. And now he's left with thoughts, memories, regrets. He sees the full picture now, the one he refused to acknowledge before. The way he spoke when he should have listened. The way he dismissed your feelings as overreactions. The times he chose silence over vulnerability. And now the irony cuts deep because your silence is the only thing he hears. When silence takes your place, his mind doesn't rest, it rewinds. Over and over again, he dives into the archives of your story, replaying every shared glance, every casual text, every seemingly insignificant moment, searching for that one turning point, that invisible line between then and now. He doesn't realize it at first, but he's chasing a ghost, trying to locate the exact moment when the warmth began to fade, when your eyes started looking elsewhere, even though your body was still in the room. And so, the mental replay begins, slowly, methodically, almost like a ritual. He remembers your laughter, the way it used to come so easily, so freely. Then he starts noticing how, in the end, it was quieter, shorter, more forced. He wonders when it became rare. He recalls the way your hand used to find his in the dark without hesitation, like muscle memory. Then he begins to notice how you stopped reaching first, how your fingers stayed still while his stayed oblivious. These things haunt him, not because they're dramatic, but because they're subtle, too subtle to have caught in real time, and now painfully obvious in hindsight. He obsesses over details. The last dinner you had where you didn't talk much. The last morning where you left before he woke up. The text you didn't reply to until hours later. He zooms in on these moments like a detective poring over evidence, convinced that somewhere buried inside one of them is the shift he didn't feel happening. He reads back old messages, scrolling further and further, analyzing the tone, the punctuation, the way your emojis slowly disappeared. The dots connect, but only in reverse. He questions himself endlessly. Was it that one argument? The one where he raised his voice and you went quiet for days? Was it that evening he brushed off your tears, thinking you'd be fine in the morning? Was it the moment you started sharing less and he didn't notice because he was too caught up in his own noise? He replays these scenarios like a broken record, each loop cutting a little deeper. But the more he rewinds, the more he realizes maybe it wasn't a single moment. Maybe it was a slow erosion, invisible, silent, steady. He remembers the way you used to share everything, the small wins, the random thoughts, the mundane parts of your day. He sees now how those conversations grew shorter, how the sparkle in your eyes dulled while he was too distracted to ask why. He begins to see the difference between you being there and you feeling seen. And that difference, that's where it all started to unravel. He starts to feel the weight of missed opportunities. All the times he could have asked, "Are you okay?" and meant it. All the moments he could have put his phone down and really looked at you. Every instance where you showed up for him and he took it as routine instead of a choice. The regret doesn't hit him all at once, it builds, slowly suffocating as each memory comes back sharper than the last. He even starts to romanticize the hard moments, remembering how you stayed even when it was tough, how you forgave him more times than he deserved. And that's when the guilt begins to sting in a different way, not because you left, but because you stayed as long as you did. Because you gave him so many chances to notice, and he chose comfort over clarity, familiarity over effort. Now he stares at pictures that once meant celebration, and they feel like remnants of a world that no longer exists. He replays videos of your laughs, trying to measure the authenticity. Was that one real? Was that smile just for the camera? He reads your old handwritten notes like sacred texts, searching for meaning, for warnings he might have missed. Everything becomes a clue. Everything feels like a whisper of what once was. And then the fear creeps in. The fear that maybe he'll never find the moment, that maybe he was blind the entire time and there was no sharp shift, just a gradual drift. That kind of slow, unnoticed distance is the hardest to face because it means there's no one moment to fix, no one mistake to undo. Just a collection of unspoken feelings, quiet disappointments, emotional neglect layered so gently that they became your silence. He thinks about how you looked at him the last few times. Not angry, not distant, Just done. That subtle, heartbreaking kind of detachment where someone has already left emotionally, they're just waiting for the courage to follow through physically. And he hates that he saw it then but didn't name it, that he felt it and still did nothing. He begins to understand that silence doesn't start when the words stop. It starts when the connection breaks and the words become meaningless. And now that you've gone silent for real, he can't help but hear all the words you never said. He replays your sighs, your pauses, your hesitant, and finds wondering if those were actually cries for help. They probably were. Each day brings another layer of clarity, another truth he can't unsee. He keeps searching for the moment it all shifted, unaware that the search itself is the proof of what he's lost. Because people don't rewind for things they don't miss. They don't overanalyze what they don't care about. He knows now, maybe too late, that your silence was never the absence of sound. It was the presence of everything he failed to hear when it mattered most. Inside his mind, there's a war raging, a quiet, invisible battle between his ego and the soft voice of vulnerability that he rarely lets surface. On one side stands his pride, tall and stubborn, whispering that reaching out would make him weak, that silence is a power game, and he must not be the first to lose. On the other side, vulnerability stands bare and honest, urging him to drop the mask, to say what he feels, to admit that your absence is a storm he's not weathering well. And he wavers between the two, suspended in the tension of indecision. His ego tells him that if he reaches out, he's giving away control. That if he shows you he misses you, he's handing over all the power, admitting that your silence is getting to him. It tells him to wait, to let you be the one to bend. It crafts logical arguments dressed in emotional armor. She's the one who walked away, she should speak first. If she cared, she'd check in, you're fine without her, remember. And at times he almost believes these narratives. They feel safe, protective, familiar. But vulnerability isn't so easily silenced. It whispers in quieter moments when the world slows down and the distractions fade. Late at night, when his defenses are down and the phone screen stays empty, it asks the uncomfortable questions. What if she needed to be fought for? What if she waited for a gesture that never came? Vulnerability doesn't demand. It simply presents the truth he keeps trying to avoid. That he misses you. That pride might keep him safe, but it won't bring you back. That silence, if stretched too far, becomes a bridge burned. There are moments he drafts the message. His fingers hover over the keyboard, thoughts racing. He writes a line, "Hey, I've been thinking about you," and then deletes it. He stares at the blinking cursor, trying to decide what sounds sincere without sounding desperate. But the internal noise grows louder. Ego mocks him, "Don't embarrass yourself. She's probably moved on." Vulnerability argues back, "What if she's waiting for a sign that you care?" And he's frozen, trapped in the space between wanting connection and fearing rejection. This tug of war bleeds into his daily life. He opens social media, sees you online, and debates whether to message. His thumb hovers, hesitates, retreats. Every picture you post becomes a riddle. You look happy, too happy. Is it real or just a mask like the one he's wearing? He tells himself not to care, not to scroll, not to overthink. But he does, because beneath the ego's posturing, there's a man who's unsure. Unsure if he made the right call. Unsure if silence is strength or self-sabotage. His pride wants to be remembered as someone unshaken, someone who didn't flinch when you walked away. It wants to maintain the illusion of control, of indifference. But that same pride is isolating him. He talks to friends, puts on a show, "Yeah, we're done, it's whatever." But when he's alone, the performance ends. Vulnerability creeps back in, persistent and soft, asking him to tell the truth to himself, if no one else, that he misses you, that he wonders if you miss him too. He replays your last words, overanalyzing tone, intent, meaning. Maybe there was still something left unsaid. Maybe you were giving him a final chance to speak. Maybe silence wasn't punishment, it was a door left slightly open. But ego tells him not to be foolish. If she wanted to talk, she would have. Don't chase. Don't lower yourself. Vulnerability whispers something different. Maybe she was tired of being the only one who reached out. Maybe she just needed to know she mattered, and the conflict intensifies. There's a kind of emotional paralysis that comes from this inner war. He starts behaving in contradictions. He thinks of you constantly, but acts as if you're a distant memory. He tells himself he's over it, then checks your profile 10 times in one day. He writes unsent messages, imagines conversations that never happen, and pretends it's all under control. But it's not. Because ego is a fortress that keeps others out, and now it's keeping him locked in. Every day that passes without a message feels heavier. Not just because of your silence, but because of his. The silence he chooses day after day in the name of dignity or pride or fear. And while ego shields him from the sting of immediate rejection, it also robs him of the potential for reconciliation, for closure, for growth. Vulnerability would have him say, "I miss you," with no guarantee of a reply. It would let him risk being ignored for the chance to be understood, and that risk terrifies him. He wonders what you'd say if he did reach out. Would you be warm? Cold? Would you ignore him completely, proving ego right? Or would you soften, showing that maybe, just maybe, you were waiting for him too? That question eats away at him, the not knowing, the uncertainty, and still he waits, caught in the space between who he wants to be and what he's afraid to feel. Pride keeps him from the fall, but vulnerability is the only way through. And every day the choice sits in front of him, reach out or retreat, and he still hasn't decided which one will hurt more. In the beginning, your absence feels like space, quiet, manageable, maybe even freeing. He tells himself that life is simpler now. Fewer texts to reply to, no emotional check-ins, no unpredictable mood shifts or complicated conversations. At first glance, it feels like peace, but peace without meaning is just silence. And soon the silence becomes heavy, suffocating, and laced with echoes of everything he took for granted. He starts noticing how empty the air feels without your laughter filling it, how long the nights become when no one is asking how his day went, how even the best news feels incomplete when there's no one to share it with. He used to think your presence was overwhelming. Too many emotions, too much need for connection, too many small battles over things he never thought mattered. But now that you're gone, he realizes it wasn't too much, it was everything. The chaos, the energy, the constant presence, it wasn't noise, it was the pulse of his life. Without it, everything feels muted. The color drains from the day. He starts to understand that the parts of you he once resisted were the very parts that gave depth to his world. He walks into rooms you once stood in and feels the shift in the air. Your belongings might be gone, but your energy lingers in every corner. He finds strands of your hair, forgotten receipts, half-used chapstick, and they hit him like memories he didn't ask to relive. These small, unremarkable things now carry emotional weight, like symbols of something he didn't know he was losing until it was already lost. And every time he comes across them, he feels the sting of what used to be routine now becoming rare. He begins to miss the little things first. The way you'd remind him of appointments, the way you'd tell him to drink more water, the way you'd laugh when he told bad jokes. The comfort of knowing someone was always thinking of him, even when he didn't deserve it. The warmth of being understood without explanation. He used to roll his eyes at your constant care, mistaking it for control. Now he sees it for what it truly was: love, effort, commitment. It's not the big moments that haunt him, it's the quiet ones. The moments that seemed forgettable at the time. Eating dinner in silence but feeling connected. Watching shows together, not for the plot, but for the comfort of being beside you. Random conversations about nothing that somehow meant everything. These are the moments that played back in his mind like soft reminders that presence isn't always loud. Sometimes presence is just a hand nearby, a look across the room, a heartbeat that reassures you that you're not alone. He thought he needed space. Now he's drowning in it. Every hour stretches longer. Every day feels heavier. He sees other people, talks to them, even laughs, but nothing sticks. It all feels surface level, like trying to build a home on sand. He begins to understand that connection is rare, and once lost, it doesn't easily come back. He thought your presence was replaceable. But absence teaches him differently. It teaches him that energy cannot be duplicated, that history can't be rebuilt with someone new. That familiarity is not something you stumble upon, it's something you earn moment by moment over time. Your absence becomes a teacher. It shows him the value of things he couldn't see while they were right in front of him. The sacrifices you made, the times you bit your tongue, the way you showed up again and again, even when he pushed you away. And most painfully, it teaches him that the weight of losing someone who truly cared doesn't hit all at once. It lands in pieces unexpectedly through songs, smells, places, and random memories that sneak up and remind him of what he had and let slip away. He sees you differently now, not through the lens of frustration or imperfection, but through the clarity of hindsight. He starts to understand your silences, your moods, your boundaries. He realizes that you weren't asking for too much, you were asking to be seen, valued, prioritized. And while you were there, he didn't know how to give that. He thought love was about grand gestures and chemistry, not realizing that the real weight of love is carried in everyday moments, how someone listens, how they stay, how they choose you over and over again. Now that you're gone, everything feels louder. Your absence amplifies the void. He finds himself imagining how you'd respond to things, what advice you'd give, how your presence would make even the worst days feel bearable. He misses the way you made his life softer, more grounded. You had a way of making chaos feel calm and turning emptiness into warmth. And now, without you, nothing quite feels like home. He doesn't talk about it openly. He won't admit it out loud. But it shows in the way he hesitates before speaking your name, in the way he pauses on pictures of you longer than he should, in the way he tries to move on but keeps circling back mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Your absence isn't a gap, it's a gravitational pull. A constant reminder that some people leave a silence so loud it follows you everywhere. And slowly he begins to see the truth, that your presence was never a burden, it was a privilege, one he only began to recognize in the unbearable weight of your absence.